Hey everyone, welcome back to Legacy Builders with Bryan Dulaney. You know, building a business is hard, and it's not uncommon for business owners to end up in debt. In this episode, I want to share with you how I took a client from being in debt to making over $20 million in net profit. I believe with all of my heart you can do the same. You put the right people and the right things in place. And that's why I want to share the exact roadmap to how we did that.
Hey everyone, welcome back. On Legacy Builders, we love talking about success stories, but the reality is that there's a lot of businesses that are in debt and struggling to dig themselves out of that hole. Bryan, one of your clients went from actually being in debt when you started working with him to where they ended up having over $20 million in net profit. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Seth. So I love this story because these guys were on the brink of throwing in the towel, and they were literally 3 feet from gold. And I'm so glad that they didn't give up, that they didn't quit, that they pressed forward. And so I want to tell you a little bit about the success of their campaign and the elements of success as a part of this episode. But I want to tell you a little bit about how we met and talk about the journey. So the owners of that company and we're in a mastermind with Russell Brunson. It's actually his highest level mastermind. And that's where we met. And so I was at a networking dinner, met these guys for the first time. They told me about what they did. I told them about what we do. And for whatever reason, they went in a different direction. For whatever reason, they hired other people that were in the mastermind, not us. And they went and they started building campaigns, and everything that they built literally flopped. Literally nothing was moving, nothing was working, and they couldn't figure it out. And they told me they were ready to go back to referral-based marketing because that's the only thing that they knew that would work, right? They built their whole business up until that point in time. This is several years ago now, on referrals only. Okay. And they had a great business on referrals. But they were in this mastermind with Russell of people who have winning funnels and campaigns, and they're building their tribes, and they're building their communities, and they're building their audiences, and they're doing all this stuff. And they felt really useless in the mastermind. They felt like they weren't able to contribute outside of their own unique expertise, which is in the financial services space. So this is actually what it took to bring us together. So another guy in the mastermind said, "Hey, Bryan, you want to go snowboarding?" I was like, "Absolutely, man. I love snowboarding. I'm down. Let's go." So he's like, "Okay, cool. Do you care if we bring some other people with us?" I'm like, "No, man. Bring anyone you want. I'm just down to hang with you and go snowboarding." And so he brought Ryan. Ryan is one of the owners of Cashflow Tactics. So we went snowboarding, had a blast, a ton of fun over a weekend. And Ryan and I got to know each other on a deeper level. We got to share, our views on different things, our value system. We realized that we have a lot in common. And so from that point, Ryan came to the conclusion, maybe I should hire Bryan and his team. Maybe I should have them help me. And he said, we're about to throw in the towel. We're about to just go back to referrals. This whole funnel thing just doesn't work for us in our market, in our space of what we do in the financial services industry. And we're about to quit. And he said, but I think that we should give you guys a shot. I think that we should give this one last go. And so from that snowboard trip, we then scheduled a call and we scheduled an appointment where they flew into San Diego at the time, was where we were living. And they flew into our offices in San Diego, and we sat down and we mapped out, how are we going to build a 7 to 8 figure business? Now, at the time, because they were so burnt from the past people they hired, even generating 7 figures was a far stretch for them. And I remember when we first sat down, their goal was literally just to fill up their mastermind, which was 10 grand or 12,500, with 100 people. They just wanted 100 people. They said, "Bryan, if we could just get 100 people over the next year, we will be your biggest fans." So we sat down, we mapped out their funnels, we mapped out their offers, what they sell as a product or service, and then we mapped out their value ladder of how they're going to actually scale beyond a break-even funnel into profitability. And so we went literally, these guys were a little bit unique because typically what we do in our business is we sit down with someone for a day and then we come back and we put together the proposal and we deliver it within a week after being together in person. And then we go into a 30, 60 or 90 day build process. Well, for them, because of where they were, in their business, they were like, listen, we don't care what it costs. We want to hire you and your team to be at the table. We want you to be helping us. So they said, we want to come in, we want to do the day with you, and we want to go right into the next step of the process, which is development. So these guys were hungry. These guys were eager. These guys were willing to stretch themselves. And so we literally went right into development. And then we launched. And we ended up doing over 10 million in 7 months. And that was a record for me at the time. We've since broken that record, but they went on to do 10 million in 7 months. And one of the things that I thought was really amazing was because of that success that they had, they got invited to speak in Grant Cardone's stage. They got invited to speak on Russell Brunson's stage. And literally over the course of less than 30 days, they spoke in front of more than 20,000 people live on stage. And it was all because of the success that they've had. Now, from a lesson perspective or strategic perspective on what we did, really what we did was we rebranded them. We created a new website that really showcased their expertise. We created a webinar that they could use as a way to warm up an audience, to inspire them, to give them insights into how to become, how to retire in 10 years or less, regardless of their age, income, or experience. That was the headline, the hook on the front end to an audience that we were marketing to, right? And then what was really important part of their sales process was they would come from an ad, whether it was Facebook or Instagram primarily. They would come over to a webinar, register for the webinar, and then they sit on the webinar. And then we would present them with an opportunity to buy access to their information. But beyond that, it was joining a community of other like-minded people that were also on a journey to becoming financially free in 10 years or less. Okay. That's a really key distinction because if they were just selling the information, I don't think they'd be as successful. They were selling information plus access to a community of other people who were also on the same journey. And then from there, we then showed them after they purchased that product, which was $497. And one of the things that they said was, Bryan, if we just break even on the front end, we will be stoked. We'll be happy. We will be ecstatic. And that's funny enough, that's exactly what we did. We'd spend $1, we'd make $1. Spend $1, make $1 on the front end, which is in their case, their signature product, their signature course. Now, mind you, before they even had the signature course, they were doing all of this education for free through Zoom calls and through phone calls and through physical meetings with people where they'd have to spend, 3, 4, 5 hours with an individual person to explain what they do and how it's different and how it's going to get them to become financially free in 10 years or less, right? So we completely eliminated, talk about how much we eliminated so much time. Now people are coming in and now they're paying for that time. So they went from giving away their information for free to now people paying for their information and completely eliminating their time component, which is a massive, think about it for a second. That's a massive breakthrough. Mm-hmm. Now, after that, we rolled out what I call a thank you page webinar. And it's positioned as more like a bonus training. So it's like a bonus training. And we called it How to Cash Flow in 90 Days or Less Without Dealing with Termites, Toilets, or Tenants. And the whole concept there is, if you think about it at a high level, right, is that you got ads that are out there in the market, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all these different platforms that are around the narrative of retire in 10 years or less, regardless of your age, income, or experience, right? So that's the narrative in the market. Now, once they become a member and they buy the course, they join the community, become an empire builder, then it's about immediately shifts the narrative to how to get cash flow flowing in right now within 90 days or less. Okay. And so it's about speed. It's about cash flow. It's about getting revenue in now versus waiting 10 years or less, right? Mm-hmm. So you go from like 10 years or less, which to a lot of people, retiring in 10 years is like a novel idea because the traditional path is you work for 40, 50 years, right? So 10 years or less is like an amazing concept to most people. And then from there, it goes right into accelerated cash flow, get cash flow coming in now. And then that moved people into an application where they would apply to be a part of a mastermind. Well, what was amazing was that we filled up the mastermind in 4 months, completely blew their minds because they thought it was going to take a whole year. And since then, what's incredible is that they figured out that for every person that spends $500 on their course, that person is worth over $18,000 because they have literally now over 1,000 people that have bought their paid product and have done over 18 million, actually over 20 million in net profit after the expenses that go into it. So that is phenomenal. I mean, think about it. How much would you spend to acquire a customer who's going to give you $18,000? I know personally, I would spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 every single day if I can scientifically, mathematically acquire customers, right?
Yeah.
Unless you had a fulfillment problem, right? Which they did. I mean, they went through their fulfillment challenges, which was people, right? How do you scale the team and how do you scale the operations and how do you create efficiencies? I mean, they were down for like 6 months because they weren't able to scale strategically because they didn't even fathom this concept of having so much business that they would need more resources of people to help them to fulfill on those orders. So absolutely amazing case study and amazing to see the journey that they're on. And they're just continuing to get better and refine their message and become better and better at marketing what they do. And it's an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, I think this is such an amazing story for several reasons. You said they were about to throw in the towel when you met them. They're about to just kind of go back to a referral only business model because that's what they knew. And a lot of businesses do this instead of investing in marketing and advertising. You know, they almost take pride in like, we've never had to market. You know, we've just grown by people, you know, like word of mouth. And I think word of mouth is really, really important. But why would you maybe advise against growing through referrals only, like as your sole source of growth?
Yeah, so I think referrals are great. Affiliates and referrals are the same thing. It's people who send you business and then you pay them a commission, or sometimes they just refer business because you do good work, right? That is one slice of the pie, right? To me, a sustainable business can turn ads on, right? Going back to like the beginning of my career, I relied a lot on free traffic until Google changed their algorithm, changed the game, and I literally lost $70,000 a month in recurring revenue. In that moment, I was like, okay, I'm never going to rely on free traffic again. That's the problem with referrals. Eventually, they dry up, and you have to go out and seek new outside sources for referrals. So for me, a business that's sustainable, that can scale, is one where you can turn the faucet on and turn the faucet off at your own will and your own determining when that needs to happen. So to me, referrals are great, but you have a business that's sustainable and scalable when you can turn Facebook, Google, YouTube, Instagram, turn different platforms of ads on and get people coming to you. Now, that does require a different skill set. It requires you to do things differently than you're used to doing, because a referral business you're used to doing if you have a referral-based business, right? You're now going to need to put yourself out there. You're going to need to advertise. You're going to need to market. These are new skill sets. These are new behaviors. These are new things that you've never done before, potentially. So it requires that you get out of your comfort zone in many ways, right? Yeah. These guys weren't in their comfort zone when they stepped out of their box and said, Bryan, I want your team and I to help me, right? They had to get out of their comfort zone. And for them, it was really a very uncomfortable place to be, because they already had tried and tried and tried, even getting advice in the mastermind that they were in, and nothing was working. So it took them to get really uncomfortable and to also trust the process to do something new, right? And I think that's something that we all have to embrace as entrepreneurs, right? We have to embrace getting out of our comfort zone and making decisions that aren't easy, right? Like making an investment in a mastermind, or making an investment in an agency, or making an investment in a new team member, or making an investment in a new service provider, right? It's never easy when you've never done it before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember when I cut my first $25,000 check for a mastermind that I joined, and I was nervous. I was like, is this the right decision? Did I make the right choice? And I was the same way when I first invested in my first workshop at $5,000 when I was in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
That same feeling came in because it was uncomfortable. I think you grow when you're uncomfortable, you can grow. And at the end of the day, you got to make the right choices when you step out in faith. But you've got to be willing to get uncomfortable and do things differently than you're doing them now if you want to experience different outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's so important to think about, like the discomfort and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations so that you can grow. You talk often about just the importance of learning from others, being in masterminds, those types of things to help grow your business. I think it's really interesting that this client never would have met you had they not been in a mastermind. They never would have made this $20 million connection if they hadn't been willing to join a mastermind and get out of their own head, get out of what they maybe thought the solutions were, and put themselves in a position where they might meet other people that might have new solutions to their problems. What do you think our listeners can kind of learn from that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the way that I perceive masterminds and the way that I look at them is that a mastermind is something that you join when you have value to give and you're ready to expand and grow, right? So what's not really that helpful, like a mastermind, you need to have masterminds at the table, right? Like that's the whole concept. It goes back to Jesus and the 12 disciples. After that, we go to the founding fathers. Then we go to, there's a lot in history. There's a lot to refer back to as it relates to masterminds. The way I look at it is this. A mastermind is that you're bringing what works for you. Plus, you're also bringing the challenges that you're currently experiencing to the table to overcome them and go to the next level with the collective help of the other people that are at the table that might have already been through your situation, right? Where it doesn't serve the group is when you have no results, you've never been in business, you have nothing to contribute. So if you're coming to a mastermind, you have nothing to contribute, then you probably should not join a mastermind. You should probably hire agencies or hire people to help you to get to a place where you have the ability to contribute to the people that are at that table. Okay. So from running masterminds myself to launching masterminds for other people and being a part of masterminds, I think that's a really, really, really important thing to talk about as it relates to masterminds. And then the other thing is that you might have an affiliate relationship that you are able to make in the mastermind, or just simply get one idea that's going to allow you to shift something in your business that allows it to go to the next level. It's not always this massive thing that has to happen in a mastermind, right? I've been a part of masterminds where just one little nugget opens a door to a massive amount of abundance. And sometimes it's as simple as that. It could be a person, but it could also be an idea. And so that's why you want to get yourself into mastermind environments of people that are playing the game at a higher level than you are. There's inevitably going to be people there that are at a lower level that you're able to pour into and help rise to the top. And that's really what it's about. It's about the collective group going to the next level together and making a greater impact. So if you can do it, if you can make the investment, if you're at a place where you're ready to stretch and grow that way, I would highly encourage masterminds because they are phenomenal. I've not been a part of any mastermind in my entire life experience where I haven't gotten something, whether it was a person that I met and I made a connection, or it was a tool that I needed, or it was an idea that allowed me to apply to some aspect of my business.
Yeah, I think that is hugely important because you're just going to, you don't know what's on the other side, and you're going to learn whether it's going to be a connection or advice you get or running into somebody on a snowboarding trip. You just never really know what's around that corner. And unless you're willing to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable and you're willing to make some investments to be able to learn, we're probably not going to get the answers that we need for the problems that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that you listeners are taking this to heart and writing down some notes and learning from some of these stories, because I imagine over the last 10, 15 years, Bryan, you've learned a lot from seeing all of these different clients be successful. So thanks again for sharing the story. And to the listeners, we'll see you next week on The Legacy Builders.
Thank you for joining me on Legacy Builders. And I would encourage you to come back to the next episode next week to get more clarity on your journey to launch your expertise online, scale your impact, and build your legacy. If you're ready to get the process started of launching your expertise online the right way, then I recommend go to launchexpertise.com, or maybe you're at a place where you're ready to really scale your expertise and your impact. Go to launchexpertise.com. There you'll have several options. Number one, you can get a free copy of my brand new book, The Entrepreneur Evangelist, which I share the secrets that have unlocked more than $300 million of results for my clients, my partners, and our own campaigns. You could also join a 33 days of coaching with me that's free, where I give you insights and wisdom on your journey to launching your expertise and scaling your impact over the course of 33 days. And that's worth at least $5,000, but for right now, you can get it for free. And lastly, if you're someone who wants to take the absolute faster, smarter path when it comes to launching your expertise online and scaling your impact, I'd recommend scheduling a call with my team where we can see how we can support you to crush goals and generate 7 or 8 figures yourself in a short period of time. We have more awards than nearly anyone in the entire community, and for good reason. And we would love to help you just like we've helped them. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Legacy Builders.